All right, welcome back to Booze, Bros, and Cars, your favorite podcast about booze and cars, and we're your hosts. I am Eric.
I am Carmelo.
And I'm Nick.
All right, so Mike is actually not going to be on the podcast today. He is actually sick and he needs some rest. He was actually partying it up on Friday in Tampa, and we're not exactly as young as we were before, so he needs to get some rest. So hopefully you feel better soon, buddy. But moving on to, of course, one of our favorite parts of the podcast is what we're going to be drinking tonight. I am actually going to be drinking a sour, or start off with a sour that's called Mr. Knife Hand. This is from a very tiny microbrewery that's called King Fox. That's actually down in Hialeah. I grew up in Hialeah, so I was actually pretty ecstatic to try them out. I did take a sip of it right now. It actually is your typical sour, but I'll give a little bit more input on this a little bit later. It is a strawberry lemonade sour ale with marshmallows, and it's a 6.2%. Pretty tasty so far, but I'll give my input on it a little bit later, as I mentioned. And then the second beer I'm going to be drinking is from Perry Artisan. It is a barrel-aged beer. So it's a stout. This is actually called Moose Boots. Moose Boots. It's actually really funny. This is actually a little bit stronger beer. It's 13.4%, and it's a barrel-aged imperial stout with maple syrup, toasted almonds, and vanilla. So it sounds really delicious. Carmelo, what are you going to be drinking tonight?
All right, so tonight I'm going to be drinking, it's called a double Viagra Frosé. It's a collaboration between King's Brewing Company out of California and Tripping Animals, not Three Sisters. Tripping Animals. They did a limited release a few months back, and was fortunate to get one or two of these bad boys. So, cool thing with this is it's a thicker sour almost. I wouldn't call it a smoothie sour, but it's a thicker sour. And one of the bartenders, I believe it was at number 3, told me, hey, before you drink one of these, chill it for, 15 minutes or so in the freezer, roll it, and then pour it, because it gets everything mixed and tastes even better. So, just a little fun tip for everybody. But yeah, that's what I'm drinking tonight. Nick, what do you got?
I'll touch on one quick one that I kind of pre-gamed the night with while I was doing some laundry and other nonsense, getting ready. Is from Magnanimous Brewing Company. I've had one of theirs last week. I think the week before. This is a Death to All but Citrus, so it's another one of their double IPAs. It is a hazy, and it's pretty much all Citra IPA. So as far as a lot of theirs lighter, like 6.5%, compared to some of their others. My main beer for the podcast is also from Magnanimous Brewing. I obviously spent some good money while we were up there visiting. This is their Bourbon Trail Brunch Imperial Stout. It is aged 13 months in Willet bourbon barrels. And then they add a little bit of maple and coffee. I had this actually on tap while I was up there, and I liked it so much I had to grab a bottle. It's not a big bottle. It's only a 500 ml bottle. I do not know the ABV. I do know it is up there. I want to say it's something between 14 and 16%, but it is not listed on the bottle. I have to look that up. And then for later, just because it finally released again, this is actually from last year, but it's one of my favorites. I am an October baby. I love Halloween. Southern Tier Warlock. So this is their Imperial Pumpkin Stout. They also do the Pumpkin Ale as well, the Pumpkin, which my keg is in. I will be picking it up on Tuesday. Get into the kegerator, and I'll have a Pumpkin on tap in the house. So exciting times for the beer world.
That's awesome. Yeah, Pumpkin is, or Southern Tier themselves, they actually make like really, really solid beers. Probably by far one of my favorite.
I get their 2Xmas is our go-to Christmas keg that we do every year too. Since I cannot get Great Lakes Christmas Ale down here.
Yeah.
Because Ohio doesn't want to send it. The distributors, whatever.
We gotta hopefully make them actually send some of that stuff down here so that we can start getting that. Actually,
maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, really funny that you're talking about Tripping Animals, Carmelo. I was actually there yesterday.
So, yeah, I saw the photos and I was like, I was going to ask you to pick up some things, but I didn't know what they had, and I have an order pending with Tavor for I think 5 or 6 different beers. So,
okay,
it's a good brewery.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so first off, I did want to talk about, I know I sent you guys a story and we kind of wanted to briefly discuss it, but it's been kind of going around the internet that there was a couple of Goodyear employees that actually passed away at the Nürburgring, unfortunately. Condolences to their families. I know that it's a rough time, especially when it comes to individuals that are doing something that they're passionate about, and I'm sure that they were just doing testing for tires and things like that. I know that a lot of the testing that is done at the Nürburgring, especially for tire manufacturers, is for tires on for road use, or for street use. So our condolences to them, and their families. But as far as I've heard of it, like the Nürburgring is, I mean, I've obviously never been there. We actually none of us actually have, and hopefully we can actually make it out there. But it's a really, really dangerous track. I mean, it's like almost 13 miles long, and there's cars that are going well over 150, 170 miles per hour, like down those long stretches. So
I thought it was like seven or something miles, wasn't it?
No,
I think the full course is, and you count the Nürburgring circuit as well, that add-on. I want to say it's like 12 and change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was assuming that Eric's new obsession with Tail of the Dragon was affecting him, because isn't that like 13.2 miles or something?
Possibly. No, isn't that 11 miles?
Yeah, so it's 12.9 miles. It's 12.94 miles. So per Google, don't crucify me for the internet. Yeah, no, it's a sad story. I mean, they were clearly doing some kind of road test and, doing obviously what they were paid, paid to do, but nobody wants to get hurt or injured or, sacrifice everything for work. So,
no, for sure.
As Eric said, our condolences out to them, their families, and, may they rest in peace.
It's a terrible piece of news in the automotive industry. And I honestly haven't looked into it too much myself. Did they mention what caused it? Was there was it a car failure, driver error, tire failure? Like, did they mention what the cause was?
So there was I'll send you guys the video later. I should have sent it to you guys before. Sorry about that. But there's a YouTuber by the name of Misha Sharudin. He's probably going to be kind of mentioned throughout the podcast here and there, because he's a very good YouTuber. He actually lives at the Nürburgring. He works, and I don't know if he no longer lives there, but he works for Apex Nürburgring, or Apex Nürburgring, I believe it's actually called. But he posted a video, and
the rental company.
Yeah. Well, they do rental cars, and they also have like a hotel. Like, so it's like it's a hotel, and then they have like a barn in the back, which they do like the car rentals there. And you do like taxis and things like that. But anyways,
my father-in-law and brother-in-law are talking about wanting to go.
Yeah, well, Apex Nürburgring is definitely like the place to go to, especially because like they have like the taxis, so you can ride along with them. They rent the cars out. You can actually spend like a couple days there. So it looks like a really awesome place. Like, everything is done up real nice. Like, it's a really, really old house and a barn that they just modernized like crazy. So it looks amazing. But he actually he does a lot of stories at the Nürburgring, and the dude's really smart. He used to work for Rivian, and he did when he did the video about this, he lives like less than 5 minutes away from the track. So he was standing out on his balcony, and he heard a crash. And it's weird, because when he was talking about it, he said that usually when you hear the car crashes, you hear the tires skidding. Well, in this case, he said that he heard the crash. There was no tire skidding. He heard a second, a third, and then a fourth. So what ended up happening is that apparently that the car must have hit some debris on the road. It must have, gone off track, hit the grass, and it actually went airborne. So it actually flew and hit the ground 4 separate occasions. But for him to actually hear that crash when the car came down, when it was airborne, it must have been going at a pretty high rate of speed, because, I mean, you have to think, it flipped 4 times, and he heard each individual crash. So it's kind of crazy to think that they must have been doing at least 115, 125 miles per hour, if not plus than that, just doing like aggressive testing. But I'm sure that those guys, they were like pretty well versed with the track, so they were confident in their driving capabilities, but it just must have been just some debris that they must have hit on track.
Yep.
So
yeah, I mean,
that sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's been a history of cars going airborne. I mean, back to
Yeah.
what was that, the Mercedes CLR GTR back in, I think it was 99, and cars even in the 70s, back when Formula One and other forms of motorsport were doing ground effects and trying to test the limit of ground force, of downforce rather. But
Yeah.
no, it's definitely sad, and see what comes of it. I'm curious though, because typically when a tire manufacturer is renting out the track, it's going to be them and a couple other companies go in collectively and rent out the track for a day.
Mhm.
So I'm intrigued to see, was there another crash? Was there a failure of another vehicle that led, to, what occurred?
Yeah, I'm sure there's got to
Yeah.
be a full-on investigation
Oh,
going
yeah.
on to figure out what happened.
It's a
Oh, yeah,
public
for
road,
sure.
so I would assume so.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's essentially a highway that you have to pay for and drive through it, because there's actually,
Yeah.
actually a lot of people really don't know this, but in the Nürburgring itself, there's a main entrance, which is where a lot of the like car people that they go to, there's like a little rest stop. They pay their entry fee and they drive around the track. But I think there's like one or two other exit and entrance on the track, because it leads
Mhm.
into towns inside of the track. So like in the outer perimeter of the track, there's like 2 or 3 towns that are actually inside of it. So, and people live and work there. So they have
Yeah.
to be able to get on and off the track. So yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that one of the most famous and infamous tracks is actually a
Mhm.
highway, essentially.
Yeah,
And
it's a toll
people,
road. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's a toll road. Um, but yeah, crazy story, and I'm sure we're gonna hear a little bit more about it sometime in the near future, with as things kind of get investigated. Um, so moving on, I kind of want to hand this one off to Nick, because he's a little bit more of the expert on this. But we're gonna talk about the new Hyundai Santa Fe. So Nick, go ahead and take it over from here.
I should have pulled something up for it, but I don't know.
All right, I
Come on,
got
do you
you.
still have something up there?
Yeah, I can pull something. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. So while he's pulling it up, I was going to tell you, like, been watching the internet, seeing what's going on. As we've talked about before, I'm a Ford now, hence my Shelby shirt that I got from one of the upfitters that builds our Shelby trucks and our Super Snakes. But I was with Hyundai for almost 8 years, right? I've driven many, I've owned many. I drove Santa Fe's for demos when I was a manager for years. They're awesome vehicles. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, fire risk, whatever. I work for Ford now. We've got our own recall issues. Everybody's got them. It is what it is. I've never had any major problems with any of mine, including my Genesis that I currently own. Aside from some dumb fluke things that are not, like, they're like one-off types of things, right? This has been kind of a polarizing thing for people in both the industry and for enthusiasts, because you always have your people that sit there and say, well, there's Hyundai copying somebody else. Here's the Hyundai Defender, not ripping off of Land Rover, whatever, because they're talking about there's the one.
The
This is like kind of
130.
their standard. They're talking about their God, what is it? The XRT. That's like their off-roady model. The XRT's got some attachments to the side to those C-pillar windows in the back that make it look like a Defender with some, gas cans, water cans, whatever. They're putting like battle racks on the top of them. I mean, I I like the interior. I love the interior of this thing. I love 3/4 of the exterior. My biggest thing is I'm not sold on the rear yet. There's something about the rear that is just funky. Now, Hyundai always does something to me that is like questionable in their design, and eventually, almost always, it grows on me. So to kind of seeing what they're doing here, like, I love the side profile. I love the angular wheel wells. They started doing that, with the Tucson's this last generation 3-4 years ago. They're doing the nice interior with the pass-throughs underneath the center console for all your crap. They're doing the big screen that wraps around the front. I mean, I think they're doing a lot of things right. I love the H's in the headlights. The light bar across the front, I've actually heard it can be standard across all trim levels, so it's not like you got to pay to play kind of thing.
Oh, I didn't realize
Tail
that was a
lights are
light
a
bar.
little low, a little funky. Yeah, it's actually a light bar that runs across there for daytime running lights.
Interesting.
But it's that rear, that whole rear fascia to me is it's got to grow on me a little bit, because I love the boxiness, I love the angularness, but that rear's got something a little funky. But one of the cool things though is they're bringing back the third row with this Santa Fe. They kind of killed the Santa Fe third row off back in 2019. I think it was the last year when they brought out the new body style, and the Palisade came out, and that was their third row. This is actually going to be just a little bit shorter. I think I saw like 6 inches shorter, about as wide and almost as tall as the Palisade. Even has more headroom than the Palisade, but it does lose a little bit of just a little. It's an average. It's an average difference, but it's it's going to have a little more headroom, a little less legroom, a little less hip room. Things like that over the larger Palisade, just because of that roughly 5.5, 6 inches difference. Again, average. But I think all in all, I think it's going to be a great entry into the SUV lineup, a great replacement for the current Santa Fe. It's going to kind of compete into the realm with my Explorer. On performance level, but it's going to kind of compete in that realm. It's probably going to have a great price point. I'm excited to see how it does. I thought I was going to wait for this thing and put my wife in one of these when her lease was up, but instead we got the Explorer, and now we've ordered her a Bronco as her replacement. So, which I got to throw this out there for Ford. The Bronco orders have been taking forever. At this current point, my current ETA, this vehicle is already built, and I should have a new Bronco in our driveway in under 2.5 months, which is absolutely insane for anybody out there considering ordering a Bronco. It's batshit crazy that it's that fast. It might be. I think it's one of the fastest ones I've ever actually witnessed the timeline of. So, and it's not because I work for Ford. I was put in as a typical priority number, like nothing crazy. It just got snapped up, and it got picked up really quick as an end of the year, because the 24 order bank opens at the end of this week, actually, I think on the 19th. And the 23s close out basically the same day. So
nice.
But that's my stance on that Hyundai. I know I kind of went on a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of
I agree with you.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, like, it definitely looks luxurious. It looks very high end, but I mean, that's kind of the direction where Hyundai is kind of wanting to lead to. And obviously with Genesis, they're doing the same thing too. So, sorry, Carmelo, go ahead and jump on, and I kind of cut you off there for a second.
Oh, no worries. So the price point is anticipated somewhere in the low to mid 40s. I know Nick kind of touched up on it earlier. Some people in the industry have been referring to this as, a Defender 130 competitor. I don't think that's the case. I mean, yeah, they have an XRT or an off-road model that's upcoming, and they're not, it looks aggressive, but at the same token, it's not going to have the same drivetrain as the Land Rover. But
yeah, it's also going to stay on the road and out of the shop more than the Land Rover.
Exactly, and that's just it. It's one of the things is everybody buys Land Rovers, everyone buys G-Wagons, right? In that when they have that kind of money and they want, whether it's the symbol that it comes or, the reliability, the off-road worthiness, but probably 10%, if that, even do it. I mean,
yeah.
From Wrangler owners, the new Broncos, even the Frontier Pro 4X guys, the TRD guys from Toyota, it's all the same. Not a small portion of people actually use it off-road. Where I know we mentioned Hyundai, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I think they're doing stuff right. The interior blows me away if they can keep it under, in the mid-40s. The interior, at least in the photo, at the bottom left of our screen, that blows me away with how nice everything actually looks.
Yeah.
I saw a Kia Rio today, probably like a early to mid 2000s, no door handles, the typical, like what we thought of 10 years ago. Everything broken, beat up on every panel, still running. And to see, Hyundai, Kia Hyundai Motor Company go from that to this is admirable.
Yeah. Between this, the performance end lines and whatnot, we talked about this in our little group text and whatnot this week leading up. Hyundai is probably one of the last manufacturers, as far as I can tell, that really listens to their consumers, to their current owners, and is listening to at least some of the enthusiasts, because they're building cars that are both great for family and solid for the track, solid for your daily driver, great all-around vehicles, no matter what you're looking for. I mean, none of them are like 800 horsepower supercars, but a 275 horsepower Elantra N or Kona N, I mean, these little things rip, and I've driven some. They're a blast. It's to me, this is still the brand to watch, shy of maybe one of the one of the new Chinese brands coming into the country or something along those lines. That are going to probably do some wild things as well, most likely ripping off of the South Koreans, frankly.
Who are ripping off everybody else.
Well, yeah. But, I think Hyundai's going to continue to be one of the brands to watch for both, what they're doing currently and what they're going to do in the future for both your normal stuff and for your performance and your enthusiast cars. They've found that you don't need to have a crazy high horsepower car to be a great handling enthusiast car, and I'm here for it. I'll probably end up with another Hyundai in this household or another Genesis someday.
Yeah, I feel like
so
Hyundai
two
and
things.
Genesis.
One I gotta say.
Oh, go ahead, Carmelo.
Two more things about the Hyundai, and then I got a question for you guys. I think Hyundai did it right. I know I said that a few minutes ago, but this isn't body on frame. I believe it's a shared platform frame that they've already been using, where that's might even be the current Santa Fe frame, if I recall correctly.
So I think it's a little tweaked. I think the new Sorento came out with a slightly different unibody setup or platform, and I think from the measurements I saw, this is basically equivalent to the current Sorento.
Okay, because I saw that I read that it was a frame that's already in production, so they're keeping costs down there. The engine options are a 2.4 liter turbo, possibly the same 270. So I'm assuming it's a variant of the N engine, the 2-liter N engines.
So
or a 2.4 hybrid.
Is it a 2.4, not a 2.5 on these?
I believe I read 2.4. I could,
because the 2.4 they killed off a few years ago or so, because they introduced the 2.5 in the Kia Stinger and in the G80 and in all the Genesis SUVs now standardized with that 2.5 turbo, which is so also with the Sonata N. The Sonata N line runs a 2.5 turbo, about 290 horsepower.
So you're right. It is a 2.5. Yeah, that's my mistake. It's a 2.5 with 277. 277 horsepower.
It's probably a down-tuned Sonata N engine, Sonata N line engine, probably tuned up for torque, tuned down for horsepower, if I had to guess.
Interesting.
So, there's that, and the fact that it's not, body on frame, like we said, no one really uses it, but it's something that the people want. It's something that, almost like the Kia Telluride. I'm not a big fan of the appearance of the Palisade on the lower trims. The higher trims, it looks great, but on the lower trims, you can see that they didn't get the high trim, which would bother me personally, but I think Hyundai's doing it right. I'm just worried looking at everything, if they're going to pull a Mazda, get an enthusiast, build everybody up like Mazda did back in the late 2000s after they recovered. They put out the Mazda 3, the Mazda 6, and then the Speeds, and then what did they do? They turned everything upmarket. They took I think in 2014, the Mazda 6 the Grand Tour, or the GT cost like 25, 26 grand. That same car a few years ago was like in the mid 30s, comparably equipped, or so it's definitely, and that was pre 2020, so they were already going premium then.
Yeah. Well, and I think so. Mazda made a very clear point that they wanted to go upscale. They wanted to compete with what they considered that mid upscale, which was like Acura, Volvo, not the full blown Mercedes and Germans and whatnot. I don't think you have to worry about Hyundai with that because they have Genesis.
Okay, and I hope that's true.
Yeah, and I think for that reason alone, you don't have to worry about that. But the one thing we just noticed is you talk about how the interior is gorgeous, the technology. Again, I work for an American manufacturer now. I've worked for 3 Asian manufacturers in the past, all in one piece of property. The Asians do aesthetics and technology better than anybody for the price point. The Germans do a phenomenal job, don't get me wrong, but you pay the price for it.
Yeah, you
the
pay
Asians
to play.
are so tech forward and advanced with it that it's just, and I hate to keep saying the Asians, but it's just, it's their forte. They make beautiful technology, they make it look good, and they make it function well. I will admit,
look at
my
that
3-year-old Genesis infotainment system isn't giant or anything, but it's quicker and more responsive than my 23 Explorer is. It's laggy at times and things like that, and it's got a big old screen. There's just something about the ones that are coming from Asian-based countries that are just, I think, ahead of everybody else for the price point on the technology.
So,
Yeah.
Eric, I think we started talking at the same time. What were you going to say, buddy?
No. I was just gonna say that I feel like Hyundai is actually one of the very few manufacturers that actually kind of like what Nick said, that they actually do listen to their clientele and they actually cater to them. Like they're obviously still building enthusiast cars, like all the inline vehicles. So there's not very many manufacturers that are actually still listening to their clientele. I kind of wish that more of them did. Um, I mean, like I know that one of them actually that is listening to their clientele I mean, they're more of a high end brand, but it's Porsche. I mean, they're gonna continue to build, combustion engine vehicles until they're able to. And as far as I know, every single car that's in their production line is, or their sports cars, is gonna have a manual transmission, so it's gonna have a clutch, which is great because like obviously, I definitely want to own a Cayman GT4 RS one day, and you can still get a manual. Like versus you have manufacturers like BMW that their M series line, they're gonna do away with manual transmissions, and it kind of sucks because that's one thing that BMW was known for, is for being the enthusiast brand. That it's a car that is a driver's car, and it's gonna lose that because it's no longer gonna be manual.
Well, here's the thing, right? So you mentioned Porsche also listening to their fans and their buyers and their enthusiasts. I don't think
Yeah.
that's the case. I think Porsche is just, in the most glorious way, stubbornly German, and that's what they want to build, and that's what they're going to build, and I am here for it, and I love it. They're basically saying, F you to the rest of the manufacturers. This is what we want to do, and if you want to drive one of our cars, you're going to be okay with it, and I am all for it. That's how I think they're going.
I am too.
Yeah. No, and it's funny because I think we talked about last week or the week before the GTI had was manual in the U.S. or North American market, was the only place worldwide that Volkswagen is building GTIs and Golf Rs
Mm-hmm.
for with a manual transmission. They're basically a carryover of the last gen R transmission. I think the R of this gen has a slight update, but ultimately, to see that another manufacturer in the same group has explained that now we're keeping the manuals for enthusiast cars is surprising. Like,
Yeah,
what other company has more than 2 or 3 manuals in a performance car? Couldn't tell you.
I can't really think
Maybe
of
Chevy.
anyone.
Toyota
Like
actually
Chevy
right
and
now.
Camaro
Toyota right
and the
now
Vet. No, you
because
can't get the Vet.
Oh yeah,
no.
understand
Yeah, you
correctly.
can't get the Corvette, but Toyota, because you can get the GR86 in manual, you can get the Corolla GR in manual, and the GR Supra is actually not manual as of this year.
Yeah,
So
that
Toyota
is
is actually
true.
one of the very few ones.
Yeah.
Even
But since BMW's killing the manual off, will Toyota still have one?
I think for this
I
generation,
think so.
I don't see them dropping it.
Okay.
I think so because
Okay.
I need to look up and see what transmission they're using, but I don't think it's a BMW transmission that they're using in the Supra.
Yeah. My understanding was they upgraded to the new M4 M3 driveline with the N58, I think, with that transmission that those cars were offered in. Because Toyota they don't make a transmission that can handle that kind of power right now. They haven't made anything that could mate up to that, where it's a direct connection with the BMW full drivetrain. I'm gonna say I think it's a BMW transmission there from the M3 M4.
Yeah,
That'd be a good deal then.
Oh yeah, I mean
For what you're getting.
I was behind one of the ST the other day, thinking I was going to have a little fun with them, and I got a little closer to them, and I heard this thing, and I realized it wasn't worth the effort. It was pretty gnarly. I couldn't tell if it was a manual or not, but God, it was spitting and sputtering and gurgling, and I decided between traffic and that, it wasn't even worth the attempt. Sounded awesome. I love the sound. That's the one thing. As much as I knock German cars. One of my worst, not my worst car per se, but one of my worst experiences with the 7 Series I used to own in terms of reliability issues. Granted, it was 7 or 8 years old, 9 years old, whatever it was when it finally, I just gave up on it. But dude, the sound that comes out of those straight 6s with the proper exhaust and some turbo stuff is just gnarly. Like we've talked about this before. We're talking about the Explorer. We've got a buddy, Michael Massey, was in the speed group. And his wife's got probably one of the highest horsepower STs in the country right now. But he's got a Supra that he just did a turbo upgrade on, and I think they brought an imported exhaust in, and this thing sounds awesome from what I've heard in the videos.
Yeah.
Quite a tangent. But back to your thing too. You're talking about the manuals. I was going to point out. So obviously with Chevy, you really only have the Camaro now at this point.
Yeah.
You've got a couple with BMW at the moment with the M3, M4. I think that's about it. Maybe the M2, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. And then you, oddly enough, Cadillac. Cadillac's up there with two right now. That's what I'm saying. You've got the
CT4, CT5 Blackwings.
AT or CT4, CT5 V Blackwing specifically.
Oh yeah,
comes in a 6-speed manual option in either of those. So, but that's it, man. You're dwindling. Then you got Hyundai with the Elantra N. The Kona never was offered, and actually, I think that's it. The Elantra N is their only manual.
Did they kill off the Veloster, or is that still around?
The Veloster's officially dead, I think, as after 23 model year. Ford, we've got the Mustang. And that's really it for us at this point. It's dwindling. Even your classic American companies that had them, it's dwindling quickly. Yeah. And yet you've got all these brands that are partnered with other brands in this country, in Europe, that we can't get over here, that still have manuals, that still have diesels, that still have all the things a lot of us would like, and we just can't get them. It's kind of a shame.
Well, it's like Ford and the Ford Falcon. I mean, like, we used to have it way back, it was like in the 60s and the 70s. And I mean, they continue to make it in Australia and in Europe. And the Ford Falcon, I mean, apparently, like, which is like the Ford Taurus, I think it was, that we used to get down here or out here.
I think so.
And then later it was the Fusion. I believe it was a Fusion.
Yeah.
Well, the Fusion is the Mondeo over there, I think.
Oh, okay. Or maybe it was a Ford 500.
The Fusion and Taurus were always very separate vehicles.
Yeah.
I thought the last gen, they were the same body, different.
Oh, it was a 500, wasn't it?
The Ford 500. The Taurus was always the larger. They did have the 500 for a little while. Yeah. I think the Taurus died. They killed the Taurus off, I believe, brought the 500 out, and then I think they brought the Taurus back basically to replace the 500 because that's when they brought the same back out. Yeah. So the 500 and the Taurus were basically the same thing. The Fusion was always a smaller front-wheel drive chassis, which is basically still in existence. Like in Europe, I think they do it. It's the Mondeo, and my understanding is they basically make a Mondeo ST over there. Yeah. So it's like a souped-up four-door sedan based off of, I think, a drivetrain from an ST Focus, I believe. I don't know. Fun either way. Obviously offered in a manual, from my understanding.
Yeah, but I mean, like the other generations, or the previous generations, they were rear-wheel drive, 5.0 liter manual transmission, 4-door big body cars, and it's kind of surprising to hear that Ford was actually building that, and they never brought it here to the States.
And I think those were built to compete with the Holdens in Australia. I don't think they were Euro or here. I think they were specifically in Australia in that market.
Yeah, and I mean, like the Holdens, I kind of wish that they brought those here because, I mean, it's a GM product. I mean, they
technically
did twice.
Did away with it.
Yeah, well, they killed it off both times. I mean,
yeah, well, they had the Pontiac G8.
It didn't sell, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was a Pontiac G8, and then the SS. But I mean, like like I kind of wish that, like, in America, like they actually, or Americans themselves, they actually pursue these type of cars so they can continue to be sold here. Because some of the cars that they actually have, like in Australia, I mean, you have it's the Holdens. I think they're called the Commodores over there, and then you have the Ute. So you have a Commodore Ute. So it's like like an El Camino, but it came with an LS. It came with a manual transmission. I mean, man, like I would freaking own one. Like if they had it here, like that looks like a pretty sick, and they have aggressive aero, so it looks awesome. But unfortunately, we can't get it here because we're just not the right market for
we
those
get good stuff.
Cars.
Yeah, exactly. Capitalism.
I mean, look at it this way, right? I foresee GM making a competitor or bringing a competitor stateside to the Maverick. The Maverick, as questionable as it is conceptually, if you were to not show us the car and describe it to a car enthusiast, I never thought it would sell. I know they're selling like hotcakes, and it makes sense.
Yeah. But especially when you consider the Maverick name used to be an old muscle car, basically, like
right. I mean,
or that classic generation of cars. Not the muscle cars came about, so it confused a lot of people. Like, oh, a Maverick, that's cool. And then here comes this little tiny pickup truck thing. And what the hell is that?
Like a CUV with a bed. But
Yeah.
I mean, why would GM bring something like that over when they would try to compete with Ford and take some of that market share away? And I think they're still back ordered, from my understanding, and they're still hard to
Yeah,
get
they're brutal.
on
I
lots.
want to say for 2023 nationally, my dealership alone in 4.5 days. That's how long the order banks were open. We ordered a little over 200, I believe, for people.
Oh wow.
And then I think nationally there was about 200,000 orders that got placed in 4.5 days. It was so many orders they had to close the order banks down way earlier than expected.
That's
This
insane.
year for 24 model, they actually stayed open. They're still open actually, but open for weeks, maybe a couple months now, because so many people jumped in on 23 to try and get them. But so many people ordered the hybrids that for my store personally, we had so many hybrid orders that we couldn't get built. So many had to roll over to 24s that we aren't really taking hybrid orders for 2024s because there's so many people that order 23s that are going to roll over into 24. We don't have the allocation. It's kind of problematic. I don't think Ford was ready for the fanfare that the car got, because when you consider it, and now it's not as cheap anymore because costs have gone up and things like that. But when you could get a base little tiny pickup truck hybrid for 23, 24 grand, people were going crazy for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And the 4-wheel drive hybrid was like 32. I mean, it was a lot of value for money, hands down.
Yeah. Well, 32, you're getting like a Lariat. Like, I mean,
that's just surprising.
It's crazy.
To get that.
Yeah.
I don't know about quality, because it was a first year vehicle, but to get that much value, anticipated value for dollar.
Well, and I can tell you, I have my one of our saleswomen. She got one of the launch editions, and I mean, she's a Ford person. She's a car person. She has every reason to complain about things whenever she wants. She absolutely loves this thing. Not a single complaint have I ever heard from her. And she's had it now since day one. Ordered a first edition. It's got special graphics and stuff. I mean, it's been a great vehicle. I actually haven't really heard anybody complain about anything about them other than the wait time on the orders. For what it is, it's a cool little truck. And man, I've seen some between SEMA and Google. Some people turn them into like little slam mini trucks. Dude, it looks awesome. Like,
I've seen mini trucks, overland vehicles, but again, going back to how we pivoted over here, why would GM bring the Commodore when every other Holden they brought over hasn't done well? I mean, the SS we're selling for below MSRP with rebates when they could develop some sort of mini CUV truck. I'll start calling it a CV, but like a mini truck thing, a micro truck, and take some of that market share away and pick up 50,000, 80,000 units at MSRP.
Yeah, I mean,
it makes sense. It's going to happen. It's going to eventually happen.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's
something else too.
Moment.
Just one.
Oh wait, no, go ahead.
One last thing about I did some research on the Super transmission. Ironically enough, it is a ZF transmission. I wasn't aware that ZF did anything manual, but it's a ZF that BMW has used, but it was designed by in partnership with Toyota Motorsports and Gazoo Racing. So it is technically a proprietary. It's probably a variation, but a proprietary transmission specifically for the Supra.
Interesting.
Yeah. Nice. I was actually going to
have something to do with just the weight balance and. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I could go way off on this, so go ahead.
No, I was gonna want to kind of take a brief moment and talk about the beers that we're drinking. So, do you want to start off?
Yeah. So I'm getting a little ways through my Bourbon Trail Brunch Imperial Stout, again from Magnanimous Brewing. I spilled a little myself. This is phenomenal. Like I said, it doesn't have it listed on here. I can't remember the ABV. I'll have to look it up before the end of the show and Google it just to see. It is got that maple sweetness, some of that flavor, that coffee flavor from the additive in there. But dude, it's really smooth.
Nice.
It's got a really smooth mouthfeel. It's not boozy for the high ABV. It's pretty phenomenal. And I'm a sucker for purples. I always talk about if I ever ordered something, I'd probably order an Audi RS6 in Merlin purple. This looks a little more blue on my camera, but it's just got this cool black, white, and purple. It's oddly chill. It's oddly comforting. Just the layout of it. It's something that stupid, the label, right? But it's It's a super great, smooth beer. Once I'm done, I'm looking forward to cracking into that Warlock, also black and purple. I don't know what it is. I guess that's my theme for the night. Yeah, it was a great choice. Great pickup from the place. And as mentioned, Magnanimous is in Tampa, but they also now have a location in Bradenton. I believe they said Bradenton or Brandon. I want to say it's Bradenton though.
Nice.
So another tap house there with more selections. So.
Nice, that's awesome. Carmelo, what about your beers or your beer?
Yeah, so the beer that I got, from the collaboration of King's Brewing and Tripping Animals, the double bagger, great. You can really taste the berry. You can taste some vanilla, but it's not overpowering. It's not thick. It's good, thick. But I have that brewing project Drecker. I tend to like it a little bit on the sweeter side. I'm either real sweeter or very, very hoppy. I don't like the in-betweens. Nice. Not a big fan of tart sours. So this is a good, good beer, good consistency, good flavor, and it's not, buy it again.
Nice.
So.
Nice. Well, right now I am drinking the Prairie Artisan, the Moose Boots, as I showed earlier. It actually is a pretty good beer. I like it. You can definitely taste that it's barrel aged, and I can definitely pick up the toasted almonds, the maple syrup, and the vanilla. It's a little subtle. It's good. I like it though. But the one that actually did surprise me was the Mr. Knife Hand from King Fox. I actually went there yesterday, and very, very surprising. So I was actually down in Miami yesterday, just kind of visiting a couple of cousins. It was one of my cousins' birthdays, so I kind of took them out to brewery hop, and King Fox is actually one of them. Real cool place. It's a tiny hole in the wall microbrewery, and they really surprised me beer wise because their beer was actually really good. I tried an IPA from them that's actually called Mecca. Oh my god, what I keep forgetting the name of it.
Oh, you sent a picture. I can't. Mecha Kaiju.
Yeah, Mega Kaiju. Man, it was cool because like the art of it was like a Mecha Godzilla type of art.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of the movie where they were like in the ocean with the kaijus coming out and stuff like that from that portal. I can't remember what it's called. I'm drawing a blank, but that's what it reminds me of. That's a kaiju, like that whole
really funny
like monster.
You're talking about Pacific Rim, and it's actually really funny. I mentioned that yesterday that the art looked like Pacific Rim, so it's actually funny that you're saying that. But yeah, shout out to them because I was
like the anime, the Pacific Rim anime.
Yeah. It was exactly like that.
Exactly, yeah.
But shout out to them because like I mean they're a very tiny microbrewery. I mean, dude, like you would walk in there and like the breweries that we're used to, especially microbreweries, they have like their bar, they have like like their section of like refrigerated beverages and stuff, and they have like picnic tables that you can sit at. This is like a very tiny, like 15 by 15 foot, like area where they have like the tap handles and they have refrigerators where you can buy their beers. That's why I picked this up. But it was really cool. It was very very chill environment. Like the head brewer, came out a couple times and he was doing his thing. But I guess his mother's actually part owner, and she was just talking to us, just telling us about other beers. But yeah, shout out to them. King Fox was actually awesome. I definitely look forward to going back there. I have more of their beer in my refrigerator. That's actually right back here. So I'm going to be drinking more of their stuff throughout the podcast, and I'm looking forward to trying out more of their stuff. So yeah, shout out to them again. But anyways, back onto more car things, which is actually one thing that we love talking about here. So Carmelo, you actually mentioned wanting to talk about the car auction. So car auctions, I mean, it's mostly like the online ones with I think it's Bring a Trailer, and there's a few other ones. I think Haggerty has one.
Cars and Bids.
Yeah, Cars and Bids. I mean, I think it's great, but I also feel like this kind of goes hand in hand together with a few things that is going to spiral into a whole new conversation here. But I feel like with cars that are sought after, especially like sports cars, the prices, because it's a bidding war, they get inflated so much. I mean, I've seen like 1998, 99 Integra Type R selling for $80,000, which is, it's stupid crazy to think, because an Integra Type R back in the day was what, $30,000-$40,000 when it was brand new, maybe, from Acura. I mean, like, you probably could have been able to buy like a USDM one for like roughly what, 20-25 way back in the day, like for like a used one. But then now they have like Civic SIs that somebody posted, like an electric blue one or sonic blue. I can't remember what the name of the color is. And it was like a $50,000 car for Civic Si. And it was like a 2000, what, a 99, 2000 Civic Si. That's crazy. So, it's, I don't know. It's a crazy market.
So I agree with you. It brings two things to me, and shout out to, I'm a big fan of monitoring cars and bids. Shout out to Doug DeMuro for the platform. I mean, he's made dream cars that everybody's wanted available, and for people to, he's actually made a platform that people could buy. Bring a Trailer was kind of exclusive, and in my opinion, sort of higher priced. Now everything's kind of inflated, but specifically with cars and bids, I'm seeing cars that I sought after being small, maybe seen once or twice for sale online from dealerships. They're now going up once every 3 to 6 months. So the curation that he's doing, and I can't imagine how many applications him and his team get to sell cars, but he has some great stuff. But like, the problem is, it's people then place their price targets on, they step away from Mannheim and other thing, and then they go to, they're almost like a mini Barrett Jackson at this point, right? As far as prices, you get a good roll at Barrett Jackson, and cars will get 20-30% overinflated. And we've seen this in Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer and other sites where regular stuff just goes above and beyond, the price of what anticipation, at least for me. And maybe I'm just living back in, the mid to late, maybe I'm living back 10 years ago, but, M3s, in the mid teens, I still see them from time to time looking at their, what's sold and, what auctions I've gone through. But it's kind of twofold, right? People that have money during certain times where we were locked down, not able to go places, were able to pull money out of the market, invest money in other platforms, other venues, if you will, and they found cars. So then that Viper, that Lamborghini was easily attainable just for a couple clicks on the computer. So I don't know. I think it's a good thing for the consumer as far as accessibility, but it also it's increasing the prices, because then you have 10 people when only 2 of those people would know that the car exists. Now you have 10 people looking at it, if not more, and placing these bids. Nick, what are your thoughts?
So I'm kind of torn. I hear what both of you guys are saying. I personally, I like it, which is kind of weird, because most people sit there and be like, "Oh, will it affect your sales?" It won't, right? We're not dealing with that kind of stuff. Like, we took a Hellcat, like a 2022 Hellcat on trade the other day, like 3 days ago. We get stuff like that, but we also, at the dealership, some of us, like, we're kind of a piloty company for some, in the lead of changes for one company called ACV Auto Auctions. So we use them for customers. There says, "Well, I don't think my trade is worth what you think it's worth. I think it's worth way more." Well, great. We have this company that will do a crazy inspection on this thing, pictures and video of the undercarriage on our lot, and they will put it nationally to an auction, right? And they'll shop this thing. I've put 2 Ferrari Californias through it. We put a Lamborghini Urus through it yesterday. That is beautiful. We ran this Hellcat on it. I've run lifted trucks, all kinds of things. I have a phenomenal used car director, and half the time he's within $1,000 of what somebody else offers, which is kind of nice to be like, guess what, folks? You're wrong. It actually is worth, we say it's worth, and that's according to national bidders that are maybe interested in your car. So it's nice in that aspect. Sometimes we get surprised, though, and we get, $2, $3, $4 more than we think it's worth, because somebody's got a buyer in LA already, and they're looking for that car. And then, like, for us, even though we're close to Naples and we're in that high-end market, we try not to dabble too much in some of these things. Like the Hellcat, we're not too interested in keeping long. The Ferraris we purely ran through just to sell them to somebody else for the sake of a customer to help them out. Like we try to steer clear from that because if someone wants to joyride it, whatever, it's just a headache. But
Yeah.
the night, and this is where this all comes in, right? So with ACV, we get this, and it's not accessible to a normal person. You have to be through a dealership. It's a thing that I'm really big on in the auto industry. And we've talked about this, and I'm trying to change the way people see the auto industry and how they're treated in it. Like I take great pride when I get great Google reviews as a sales manager based on the way I treat people and the way I communicate with them and stuff like that. But the big key for me that I tell my customers, I'm very upfront, I'm very open, I'm big on transparency. And for me, ACV is transparent, and so is something like cars and bids. Like I see a massive value in transparency in the auto industry, and cars and bids does that. You have the flaws, the pros, the cons, sometimes the cool ones. Doug DeMuro himself reviews. And for me, if you're willing to spend that kind of money, don't get me wrong, sometimes I think it's a little crazy for that enthusiast car, but somebody out there is willing to spend it, and they spend it confidently because of the transparency in that auction. Like you didn't get that with eBay, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. You're trusting solely the seller, and now you've kind of got somebody else moderating that, forcing transparency out there, sharing the vehicle history reports. And the cool thing, I almost put my Miata on Cars and Bids because it was a 99 with only 49,000 miles. A pretty clean version of it, mostly elderly owned down here in Southwest Florida, so it was very well cared for. I was going through the process. Somebody just happened to basically offer me what I was asking for it. Another dealer that then upcharged it, and I just took the money. He was willing to come get it, and it made my life easier. But there's just something about that site. I mean, I had to do a lot of work to try and get the car accepted. You have to submit a lot of stuff, a lot of pictures, a lot of information, really as much as humanly possible. And they can sit there and say, you know what, this car's something shady here. There's not enough transparency. We won't list it. Like so for me, that is the big part. Some of these auction sites are allowing buyers that are willing to spend some of these maybe outrageous numbers on these enthusiast cars. They're giving them transparency and a reason to trust it to buy their dream car. So from that
saying
aspect,
it's worth the premium?
I like it.
The premium?
I think so, frankly, because let's just say you buy your dream car. It's an M3, an 02 M3, whatever, right? And you buy it from somebody, and it is a nightmare. We all know some of these cars can be expensive to repair. But you go on a site like that and you pay a $5,000 to $10,000 premium for a pristine car, or even a car with some issues, but they're listed. You know what you're getting yourself into. You know what to plan for and to expect. So for me, that premium is worth it. That's the way I look at it. And from a seller perspective, it's a great site because the buyer pays fees. The seller has to do a lot of work. Fees. The seller has to do a lot of work to get the car accepted. But the buyer eats those fees when they purchase the vehicle. So that's where the company gets their money. That's listing it like Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer or whatnot. But yeah, I think for me, transparency and all that data is worth a premium. Because there's too many shady people out there just trying to slide something by and make a quick buck and screw somebody else. Again, I am against that in the industry and private sales and all of it. I'm in a for-profit company. I am here to make money. However, I believe transparency is worth a premium.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely agree on that. But and you actually kind of mentioned something that kind of sparks a little bit of rage on people, which is if they have to deal with it. I know that we all have, but it's Facebook Market. It's like probably by far one of the worst places to post anything, whether if it's a car or if it's car parts. I mean, like I had an issue selling car parts years ago, like when I was selling parts off of my BRZ. I mean, I had obviously like the typical, oh, is it still available? And then yes, it is, and then nothing, crickets. And then you also had your typical dumbasses that I have a really funny story, but we'll probably talk about that on a different episode or different podcast. Just our laughable or horror stories from Facebook Market. But I had an issue with some kid trying to buy my suspension, and he's like trying to nickel and dime me, and I'm like, dude, this suspension doesn't even have 10,000 miles in it, like, and it's brand new. I'm giving you everything for a deal, and you're gonna bitch and complain about my price because you have to drive 2 hours. Like, that's not my issue. That's your issue. You want my suspension.
Mm-hmm.
You need to come meet me because I'm busy during the week. You know?
Yeah. It's funny you say that because we deal with that in the auto industry. Somebody from Miami,
Yeah.
you should give me a deal. I'm willing to drive over there for it. It's like, you found me because I have the car you want.
Exactly.
Why would I discount it for you when you're not going to service with me? I'd rather discount it more than what you want for a local customer because they're going to stay with me. You know,
Yeah.
I want to take care of my local people long before I'm going to take care of the guy from Tampa, Miami, out of state. So it's exactly your point. It's not my fault you found my product, the product that you want, and you have to drive for it. That's your problem. I have what you want. Come to me, deal with it. End of story.
Yeah.
But that's my rant on that.
Nick, kind of continuing on that, are you guys still delivering cars, or is that something that's kind of stopped now that everything's changed?
I mean, it's not stopped. I did a deal today for a nice couple from Clearwater. They bought a used Raptor, older couple. It was really cool to see them. They were buying a 2019 Raptor.
Nice.
And that was part of the deal, is that we're going to deliver the car to their house in Clearwater on Thursday. They did all the deal today, all the paperwork and whatnot, and we're going to basically have a lot porter and the sales guy drive up there, drop it, and come back with, there's no trade, so they're going to take 2 cars up, bring 1 car back. So do we? Yes. Is it as prevalent as it was doing the whole like no touch sterilization thing in COVID?
Yeah.
No, not at all, because people are leaving the house now. People are out there. And that was never a massive thing in Florida, because Florida was like, hey, we're still open economically. We're thriving. So like Florida did do some of it. You did have your people that were way off to the side that were like, oh my God, they're still masked up to this day in their personal cars. But we didn't do too much of that. And we do it now, but not for that reason. It's more of a courtesy for somebody. And the deal's got to make sense, right? And we're not using transport. It's one of those folks, if you want us to deliver it with no miles, you better find a transporter and pay for it. If you're okay with us driving it to you and dropping it off, no problem. Your sales guy will do that. He'll take a few hours out of his day. He'll bring it to your house and drop it off for you and teach you how to use it. So it's, a lot of dealerships are doing that. There's probably some out there that are telling them just, shove it and get out. Most of us are still doing that. That we're, again, at the end of the day, we're in sales, but we're in customer service. We're taking care of people how we need to secure their business, to maximize profit, let's be honest, and to make sure that they're happy, that our CSI scores and our review scores are good. I mean, that's the name of the game nowadays.
Yeah. Nice. I didn't realize that you guys were actually still doing that, because I know that was like a thing that was, it wasn't really an issue, but I know that, there was obviously like a lot of people that were.
It's for different reasons now. It's all convenience based. It has nothing to do with the COVID stuff. At this point, it's more the people today in Clearwater drove down a car they weren't trading, and they didn't want to drive it back home tonight. Husband and wife. Husband does the majority of the driving. Wife didn't want to drive a Raptor home or whatever. I forget where they drove down. She didn't want to drive that home. So it's one of those. Folks, no problem. You're willing to give us the money now, sign everything. We'll have it to you by the end of the week.
Nice.
And they were happy. So that's again, sometimes you just got to go just a tiny bit above and beyond. And it's not even above and beyond. It's just common courtesy. And it's simple. It's easy business.
But it's customer support.
It's things that get the deal done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, I've talked about this. I won't say the name of my dealership on here. It won't be hard to figure it out. We talked about the cities we're in. It's been
exactly.
The same family for 97 years. 97 years, right?
Wow.
You don't keep your family name on a building for 97 years and not do things the right way. And that's just the way we do things.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and that says something. If one family has owned the same dealership for almost a century.
We're preparing right now. The 5th generation is preparing for the takeover. And it's crazy.
Wow.
It's awesome. It's awesome, but it's crazy.
How many businesses, like, forget just the industry, but how many businesses survive 5 generations or 4 generations, right? That's phenomenal.
So many can't even survive past the 2nd generation.
Exactly.
I actually saw an article the other day about the failure rate going to a 2nd generation takeover, and it's huge. It's massive.
Yeah.
We're one of the oldest Ford dealerships in the country, and because of our location, Henry Ford used to hang out here at our dealership back in the day and hang out with the service department to basically do R&D on how they were fixing things back in the 20s and 30s. So it was pretty cool. You walk around our dealership, we have pictures of Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Firestone sitting together on a front porch in Fort Myers because they were all friends. Awesome. So we actually have a 1906 Ford, I forget the model, in our showroom that was Henry Ford's personal car at the estates down here at the Ford Edison Estates in Fort Myers. After he passed, it was donated to the Galloway family for display. So there's some cool heritage,
Wow.
really cool heritage.
Nice.
We got some cool pieces in our collection because of that whole little family
Relationship,
connection with
yeah.
all of them. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So that's all the time that we have today. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to savor your brews and hit the road responsibly. Don't forget to also hit the like button, share, comment, subscribe. Definitely would love to grow the channel. And also go ahead and comment below and let us know how we're doing. Let us know what content you guys want to listen to, or just any topics you guys actually want us to talk about as well. So yeah, so cheers to booze and cars, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
Cheers.